This is a podcast from the Environmental Change and Security Program at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars.
This is Jeff DeBelko in the Environmental Change and Security Program at the Woodrow Wilson Center. I recently had a chance to sit down with Ganter from Circle of Blue, a journalist who's taken on water issues as a primary focus of his coverage.
I'm Ganter. I'm director of Circle of Blue, which is an international project covering the freshwater crisis using exceptional journalism, science, and communications design.
Carl, you've been a journalist for a long time. Why has water captured your imagination?
Water really captured me when I covered the World Summit in Johannesburg for MSNBC. And I saw that a lot of people were starting to understand the crucial role that water played in so many of the issues that are important to our time today. Everything from conflict to cooperation to poverty to health to even economic development to even financial tools. We're facing huge issues from, as we say, the taps and toilets issues in the developing world to even the developed world, such as the United States, for example, where billions of dollars are needed just to clean up the Great Lakes and preserve some major water supplies in the United States. So this is a fully global issue that's being underreported, and there's so much happening on the front lines. We need to find out what's working, what's not working, and help provide the information so that decision makers can have really the data and the fresh information to make valuable decisions.
Why do you think this has been an underreported story from journalists?
Well, water's really been an underreported story, I think, because we, at first, when we dive into it, so to speak, we think it's a simple issue. We think, well, we'll go cover water, and then we're done with it. But water is an intensely local issue. It's a very complicated issue that, in a sense, is cross-cutting throughout all of the departments in traditional journalism. You can't just run out the door and cover water. It intersects everything from climate change to energy to security. These are some of the biggest issues of our time, and water intersects all of them. And not a single one of these intersections is simple. You can't just run out and take a picture and write a short story and feel that you've covered the water issue.
So how are you and your colleagues at Circle of Blue trying to cover this issue?
Well, our real methodology is to get out and cover this issue intensely across, in a sense, a matrix of interest areas. We want to cover everything from the inspired to the beautiful to the most tragic health, life-threatening issues, because water inspires us. We're made of water. And all the way on the other end of the spectrum, more children die each day because of dirty water than most other diseases combined. Now, if we were to put that in perspective of airline crashes or whatever other metaphors we can come up with, we'd be shocked. But it's a slow fuse issue that has a hard time, in a sense, aggregating in our collective consciousness. One, because in the developed world we take it for granted, but two, it intersects all of these other issues, and again, it's so ubiquitous, it's complicated.
So our listeners on the new security beat are obviously interested in the connections of water and security that you mentioned. As you're covering this issue, I know you've been spending a lot of time in China. How do you see these water issues connecting with geopolitics?
Well, water has a historical role in geopolitics. Look where civilizations have located themselves. Look at just even defending harbors. We're talking more about international waters and oceans there. But as water goes, so goes civilizations. So as far as water and security, we have the potential for serious conflict. We have a lot of experts who point to Darfur as an example of what happens when you combine drought with geopolitical tensions and agricultural practices. You come up with really a cauldron of tensions that are going to explode somehow. Now, what's positive about this is the opportunity for cooperation. I mean, we have the ability, of course, to control water. We have issues of privatization on the corporate side. We have the potential for major global leaders and countries to control water for downstream. But we also have the opportunity, in fact, the imperative for really transboundary cooperation on water issues. And I think we're seeing a lot of that. What we need to do, I think, is really elevate that to the highest levels of political discussion so that water comes in as a major piece of the puzzle in peacemaking. Mm-hmm. Because it's so ubiquitous that I think a lot of leadership just continually slide it off the table. Mm-hmm. But it can be that thing that unifies us.
So as a journalist, what advice would you give to those who have found a receptive audience in the media for water and conflict, but less interest in the good story of water and cooperation? So how to make water and peace sexy to the media?
How do we make water and peace sexy? That's a challenge because we are crisis-driven. We in the media, we chase fads and fire trucks. I mean, that's the kind of the general MO. But we also have to cover the long-term trends. Now, we have to cover water. We have to look at the potential for conflict, and we have to look at the peacemaking side. Making peacemaking sexy is going to be a challenge. But the way we can do that is, I mean, there are dramas unfolding every day, every second around water. Now, a drama doesn't have to end in tragedy. It can also end on a hopeful note. And when we cover water, when we either in the NGO world, in the political world, in the scholar world, in the journalism world, we have to tell better stories. We have to find out who are these key players, what are the narratives, and make these really interesting. And obviously tie that with with the fact-based scholarship. But those narratives are just going to be so important because we have to make this issue as relevant to the farmer on his or her tractor in Iowa who's pumping ancient aquifer water as it is to somebody who, say, is working in the U.S. aid, in the government or in the U.S. NGO or global NGO community. We have to give them the tools, and they have to understand they need to tell better stories as well.
For more about Carl Ganter and the Circle of Blue, visit him online at www.circleofblue.org. And of course, for this and other podcasts, visit us at the Woodrow Wilson Center's newsecuritybeat.blogspot.com or www.wilsoncenter.org/ECSP.